Our next topic, and our final large topic, is seventh chords. Now, as we go along, you're going to learn some more sophisticated ways of thinking about seventh chords. But let me start by giving you a very simple way of thinking about seventh chords. It's really not quite right in terms of the way these chords evolved and the kind of the history of their compositional use, but conceptually it's a pretty clean way of thinking about them. You can think of triads, and I've got triads up here, first 7 triads in C major. You can think of triads as being constructed by stacking thirds, one on top of another, starting with the root. Well, if you can do that twice, why not do it a third time? Why not simply keep stacking thirds so that in addition to a root, third, and fifth, you've also got a seventh above the root, okay? That's the easiest way to think about what seventh chords are and how they work. And similar, just as it was in the case of triads, you can think of this as actual pitches, root, an actual third, a simple fifth, a simple seventh above. But you should understand this as also, in a deeper sense, being a pitch class structure. Anytime you've got some C, some E, some G, some B, you're talking about an instance of this particular seventh chord with a root of C. Now, the most commonly used seventh chord is this one right here. So as we talk, we're going to sort seventh chords the same way we sorted triads based on their quality. And this one is a major minor seventh chord. So it's a major triad with a minor seventh. So if we're in C major, take that major triad, add a minor seventh, we'll try it an octave lower. So take that major triad, minor seventh, that should be the very familiar sound of a major minor seventh chord. Now we already know major third, perfect fifth, minor seventh. One of the most characteristic intervals is that between the third and the seventh. You can see that that's a fifth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What kind of a fifth? Sorry, so we're talking about this one. It's a fifth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What kind of a fifth is that? That's a diminished fifth, okay? It's got that diminished fifth in it. It's got both of those unstable tendency tones. This sound only occurs once in the diatonic collection. And the reason for that, of course, is it's got a diminished fifth, and there's only one diminished fifth, okay? So because this occurs on the dominant scale degree, and we can name these seventh chords the same way, tonic seventh chord, supertonic seventh chord. This is the dominant seventh chord. Dominant is in starting on the dominant scale degree. But that is turned into a generic name for that quality. So we talk about this as a dominant seventh chord. And even if I've messed with my notes in the scale to create that sound on some other scale degree, I can still loosely call it a dominant seventh chord. I can use that name. Oh, that's a dominant seventh chord. And that is exactly equivalent as a label to the major minor seventh chords. Now let's look at what other kinds of seventh chords we've got here. We've got a few of what's called a minor seventh chords. Each of our minor triads is going to add a minor seventh. So 3 minor triads, each one has a minor seventh. So those are what's called minor seventh chords, a minor triad plus a minor seventh. So I happened to be filming this, I think, about a week after the death of Marvin Hamlisch, who some of the styles of music he used were, some of this gets towards 70s, kind of easy listening stuff. Lots of use of minor, minor seventh chords. Characteristic sound. And so these, compared to the only one dominant seventh, 3 minor, minor seventh chords. What other qualities have we got inside this collection? Well, if we use a major triad, any of the other major triads, 1 or 4, and add a seventh in the scale, that's going to be a major seventh. So next we've got, sure enough, the major, major seventh chord, major triad with a major seventh. So for example, the 4 chord. It's not used very frequently, but it's really a gorgeous, it's a gorgeous sound. For example, we might use, it's got this wonderful poignance of this major seventh between scale degree 4, scale degree 3. It's basically my favorite chord. And many composers have used it in really beautiful ways. So the major, major seventh chord. And then the final one we've got, our single diminished triad. You'll see there's a minor seventh there. So we call this a diminished minor seventh chord. Now, we've also got another name for this, a name that won't make a whole lot of sense until I tell you about something else. This can also be called, and is frequently also called, a half-diminished seventh chord. Why would we call that a half-diminished seventh chord? Well, I'll show you why. Suppose that we're in C minor. And suppose that we're using the harmonic minor scale when we build our 7 chord. Okay, now look what we've got. We've still got that diminished triad. And I'll explain a little bit more about those notations in a moment. But now we've got a diminished seventh, right? Because from B flat, well, a few ways we could think of it. Hopefully you're at home in this key. From B flat up to A flat is a minor seventh, add a B natural, scoops it up to an A flat. If you're not so at home with the signature, you could also say, oh, a B to an A would have been a minor seventh, but it's A flat because of the signature, so it pulls that down. It's still a diminished seventh. So a diminished, or fully diminished seventh chord has a diminished triad and a diminished seventh. So that's why half and fully diminished. Also, you'll notice if I go back to my C major context, you'll notice this, bit of a preview, this is a diminished fifth, but this is a perfect fifth. In contrast, the fully diminished seventh chord has a diminished fifth, as we know, between root and fifth, but also a diminished fifth from the D up to the A flat. Right there, we've got a second diminished fifth. So the sound of this, I don't think I played I didn't play the half diminished. Let me take a step back. Diminished triad plus a minor seventh. Perfect fifth between third and seventh, versus in minor now, diminished triad plus diminished seventh, fully diminished seventh chord, diminished fifth between root and fifth, diminished fifth between third and seventh. It is, in fact, a fully symmetrical sound, because if you don't think about spelling, you always go up by a minor third. Of course, from the A flat to the B natural, that's really an augmented second, but it sounds just like a minor third. So this tense chord is a fully symmetrical chord.